the premier sports talk radio. It's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.
We're back for another great episode of Tony's Takes right here on YouTube. And of course, I am not alone in the studio today. I'm, of course, joined by co-host Jim. Jim, how are you doing today on this lovely Thursday? Another great episode of Tony's Takes. We're live. We're doing well today. I hope you are too.
One of these days, I'm going to be excited to be here and actually happy with Philadelphia sports.
I can tell you that you're unhappy.
I'm a bit unhappy, yeah, that's for sure.
For those who are probably wondering why Jim is not that happy, it's because the Eagles, his Philadelphia Eagles, lost a tragic game to the Washington football team the other day. By the other day, I mean Sunday. And so I wanted to hand the floor over to Jim so he could give me his expression and his feeling, his raw emotion as a Philadelphia Eagles fan to talk about what is probably the worst loss I've seen this team have in maybe 5 years, I would say. It's probably the most embarrassing loss. Outside of the Eagles, though, just to give a little preview of today's show, we're going to be talking Clippers, combustion, how they've absolutely imploded on themselves, and why it's Doc Rivers' fault. Mike D'Antoni being a potential coach for the Philadelphia 76ers. I know Angelo Cataldi announced that... Well, I heard it on Angelo Cataldi's show, that Mike D'Antoni's in the running as number one, and I think it was Keith Pompey was the original reporter on that one. Mike D'Antoni's probably going to be the Philadelphia 76ers coach. It is his job to lose. That is the quotation. And then we're going to talk about the Phillies. They slid. They did not do what we said we wanted them to do. We wanted them to win 5 of the 7 games against the Marlins, and they dropped 5 games to the Marlins. So we're going to get into all of that. A lot of mishaps in Philadelphia this week, that's for sure. But first, we're going to start off with Jimmy's first ever monologue here on Tony's Takes. Take it away, Jim.
All right, so before we can even get into the loss by the Eagles, we have to think about all the things that have compounded that made this loss of the Eagles so much more stressful. So after one of the most disappointing months and truly devastating weekends in recent memory, I don't know if Philadelphia sports fans can consume this product anymore. The Sixers, they got bumped out on August 23rd by losing 4-0 to the Celtics after 7 years of investing on the team. The Flyers lose Game 7 to a 6 seed after being down 3-1 on September 3rd, hoping that they could come back and actually beat the 6 seed. The Phillies went from a game and a half back from the Braves on September 8th to 4 games back on September 15th, and they're still 4 games back today, with the Marlins a game and a half ahead. And finally, the Eagles open up the season against an extremely mediocre Washington football team, squandering what seemed like an easy win in the first half of the game. And that's what I want to get into. The Eagles game is a perfect microcosm representation of what it has felt to be a Philadelphia sports fan over the 2019 and 2020 year. The Eagles were up 17-0 after a quarter and a half, and then after the dust cleared, Washington settled in and fought back. The Eagles became complacent, they looked sloppy, and they never fought again. This parallels that Philadelphia mantra of the "we have talent, so we will win the championship." Putting up numbers in the first half or getting the star players is only half the battle. We have become the Professor Calamitous of sports. For those who don't know, that's a Jimmy Neutron reference. Philly has not been able to finish what we started for quite some time. So let's break down what actually went wrong with the Eagles. While the Birds came out early throwing the deep ball and utilizing their tight ends the way I expected, the way most expected, the offensive line looked about as incompetent as we all had thought. Let's remember who was actually playing out there, though. Jason Peters, old. Isaac Seumalo, okay, has some good upside sometimes. Jason Kelsey, he's fine, but remember, he's getting older. Nate Herbig, has anybody even heard of him? And Jack Driscoll, who went out hurt in the middle of the game, putting Mailata in for right tackle. God save us if Jason Peters went out and started pulling himself from the game. Now, Mailata didn't look that bad, but the guards and running backs were horrendous at making blocks. Thankfully, Lane Johnson will be returning this week against the LA Rams. But specifically after that 17-0 lead, the O-line and backs would break down and miss blocks. This left Carson with 3 options: get rid of the ball, evade and run, or take the sack. He tried those evasive moves early, and they somewhat worked. Remember, he was ducking and he kind of trucked the guy over him. But then the line had so many holes in it, like Swiss cheese, it's not going to last. He needed to use his feet and run away. By the way, he has not done this since 2017. I can't tell if it's the coaches telling him to stay in the pocket or if he's scared to run. And when his rushing ability is limited, that leaves him with only two options, throw the ball or get hit. Carson was so ineffective at getting rid of the ball. At one point, he began his throwing motion, and as he got hit, he decided to pull it in and caused a fumble. At this point in his career, year 5, he should be decisive in stepping into the role of a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Instead, he's going to shrink in this team, and he'll be injured by the end of the season because of the crazy amount of hits that he's going to take. He has to make better decisions. And by the way, leave comments in the chat as I continue on with this point on the Eagles.
Jim, don't worry. They're leaving the comments. The comments are flooding in.
All right. Once the Eagles started giving up points, the offense got stale and had bad play calling from Coach Pederson. They stopped running the ball again, just like last season, and began airing the ball out. The allure of Carson being the guy becomes too prominent in Doug's mind. You can see it. Nick Foles wasn't the guy back in 2017, 2018, which made the quarterback more of a distributor than a crux of the offense. I don't say that as a we need Nick Foles, but as a demonstration of quarterback coaching philosophy. As the offense slowed down, Washington stayed consistent. The entire game, they just were slow chug train that just kept believing they could, and they did it. They made very few errors and moved forward against the bend, don't break Eagles defense. And I don't care if they got the ball inside the 50 on the other side. When you give up 27 points to Washington, our strategy is obviously not working. So yes, the Eagles are not looking great, and I do not expect too much of an improvement unless Carson, Doug, and Schwartz begin making better decisions. Finally, just one hot take. Doug Pederson is in the same grouping as John Gruden, and I do not mean that in a positive light. They are 500 coaches with an outlier of one successful season. Pederson, he was 25-23 without the Super Bowl winning season. John Gruden, he came out of retirement at 95-90. Then you take out the Super Bowl year, and he's adjusted at 83-86. John Gruden's not a great NFL coach, and neither is Doug Pederson.
Wow. Wow. Jim's first ever monologue here on Tony's Takes, the first ever monologue that wasn't written by me. Jim, I think you did a really good job, and I think you really raised some good points. But before we get to those points, just want to thank everyone in the chat. Chat is just over the top right now. Got Stephanie Daniels in there.
Oh, Stephanie Daniels, that's my sister. Shout out.
Kristen. We've got a lot, but a lot of Eagles, a lot of Jim Schwartz needed to adjust in the half. Be nice to my birds. They need your support. And Antonio Amaral, we don't need to talk about the Mets until at least the bottom half of the show. In a half hour, we actually are going to talk Phillies and just about how they have absolutely crushed the Mets, not making up for that loss against the Marlins, that's for sure. But I want to stay on this Eagles talk. It's got the whole chat animated. It's got all the fans animated. If you like this kind of talk, make sure to subscribe, though. Make sure to subscribe here at Tony's Takes, here on YouTube. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell. I want to thank all the viewers. We're up to 12 subscribers in literally 1 week. We tripled the amount of subscriptions we had. So I really do want to thank you for that. It means a lot to both Jim and I that you're taking the time out of your day to listen to Tony's Takes live. So, Jim, I think you made some really, really good points about the Eagles. But I think while the coaching is a problem, there are no adjustments being made on the fly, right? They come in from the beginning scripted plays. They were great. They were great. You couldn't complain about the scripted first 15 plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't get better than that. Wheel routes. They were throwing the ball down the field. They were not even thinking about handing the ball off. We're going to go score, and we're going to put the pressure on a team that we know can't come back on us. But the thing is, that only works if you can hold the lead, right? If you can hit him in the nose from the gun, put him in a shocked state, and then you fortify the defense, right? That didn't even happen. They executed part one of the strategy and then completely fell apart on the other half, which is on the coach. Let's not get that twisted. Just like a team has scripted plays to start the first half, you need to have scripted plays coming out of the halftime into the third quarter. You can't just show up and think, oh, we're just going to do the same. We're going to either do the same script again, or we're going to do really simple slant routes, or we're just going to hand the ball off, but not hand it off at the right times. They would, all of a sudden, they threw they do the first drive and they're handing the ball off really well. It's fine. They're chewing up a little bit of clock. But in the middle of the third quarter, they throw the ball. Carson throws off his back foot. Total game changer. The entire atmosphere of the game completely changed when that happened. Why are you going from run to throw in the third quarter? You don't even know if it's working or not. You don't even know if your run strategy is working until you run the entire third quarter. And if that doesn't work, after a full quarter of committing to the run, then you go, okay, we got to do some passing. And the thing about what you said about Carson Wentz is the thing that gets me the most is Nick Foles was really good at getting rid of the ball. He understood his limitations as a player, and so did Doug Pederson. He understood the plays that were needed to be called for Nick Foles. And I don't know if there's a communication error. I don't know if Carson Wentz is too prideful. But Doug Pederson either has to script plays where the ball is released after 2 looks, right? You do your first read, your second read, get rid of the ball. Or Carson is just not listening to that, and he's doing first read, second read, not getting rid of the ball. Oh, I can make this play last a little bit longer. Oh, no, I can make it last a little bit longer. Third read, fourth read. Oh, you, Goddard, run the other way. Zigzag, go the other way. That's what I'm thinking when I'm viewing. It's either one's not scripting the plays correctly or the other one is not listening to the coach. Either way, they're both at fault. If you have a quarterback who's not listening to you and you're the coach, and this quarterback's not getting rid of the ball, he's holding on to the ball too long, he's getting sacked too often, he's not making the right decisions or right reads before the play even occurs, that's on you as the coach to go to your quarterback and say, what are you doing? Doug Pederson was a quarterback in the NFL. He was, with Andy Reid, the quarterback whisperer. I don't want to hear that Doug Pederson doesn't know how to control a quarterback in regards to decision making. I don't want to hear that. That is excuse city, and I am not moving there. I don't want to hear those excuses. I don't want to hear Philadelphia fans who are avid Carson Wentz defenders saying, it was the offensive line. Don't talk to me about offensive line. Ever watch Russell Wilson? That's a man who doesn't have an offensive line, yet finds a way to make it work because he's really good at making decisions.
Well, this is where I question the coaching philosophy, right? Because Carson does treat passing like Russell Wilson, right? He stays there. He holds onto the ball to try and find somebody that's open. But the issue is Carson no longer moves. That's what Russell Wilson does the best. He's able to evade and get around from sacks. He doesn't move. He stays inside the pocket now, and he doesn't wait for something to happen, he doesn't even try to make something happen. It's just like he's lead-footed and he just waits to get hit.
Steven says, if you don't listen to the coach, bench him. Now, I don't know if I believe in the benching. The Tua talk is real. The Tua talk is something that I would be scared of if I was an Eagles fan. I'm not doubting that is borderline. You know, you're looking to get rid of the whole team, which honestly, with all those old guys on it, you might need to. I mean, the age gap on this team is ridiculous. Why would you ever put Tua, a quarterback who is not Tua? I'm sorry. Why am I saying that? Jalen Hurts. I can't believe I said that. I'm confusing my Alabama quarterbacks.
That's all right.
My bad. I can't believe I did that. Jalen Hurts. The Jalen Hurts talk is real. And why would you put a guy who was drafted, 4th round? Was he 4th round, 3rd round, or 2nd round? He was taken early. I think it was second round.
Second round.
Which the Eagles drafting is another thing that needs to be fixed. But Jalen Hurts, 2nd round quarterback, you're just going to put him in there with that line? You think he's going to make better decisions than Carson Wentz? I don't think so. I think you're kind of stuck at a rock and hard place of a line that's getting older, a line where hopefully Lane Johnson did say he's coming back this week.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's going to start against the Rams.
That's a step in the right direction. But still, it's not the same offensive line. You see those names. It's not the same thing as 10 years ago. Not 10 years ago, 2 years ago. It's just not the same team. And so no one's going to make of all the guys you have on your roster, Carson Wentz is the one who's going to make the right decisions. However, that doesn't mean you don't hold him accountable. Carson can't do a touch pass. Carson Wentz's release point has never been fixed, and the fact that he brings the ball down before he releases it is such a problem that even a high school quarterback would learn how to fix. He does that swinging motion, brings it down, brings it up, and there's a reason why strip sacks are so common, or can be common with a player who throws the ball that way. And I think my final note, Jim, is the fact that Jason Peters and his contract is the perfect example of what's wrong with this team. They are ultimately holding on to older players who helped secure a Super Bowl. The Patriots, and I know I hate the Patriots, but the Patriots always get rid of a guy a year early. There's a lot of linemen on this team that you could get rid of a year early.
Yeah.
And if you hold on to them too long, I don't know.
And I know no one wants to hear it. I know no one wants to hear Jason Kelce should be on the chopping block soon, but he is getting older, and it is time to start thinking about putting a new center in. And the one thing that I wanted to touch on with the release point was back 3 years ago when Carson had this MVP type season, he had a quarterbacks coach by the name of John DeFilippo who used to apparently ride him all day, all night about fixing the little things. And he has not, you can tell since then, he has not shown that same level of quarterbacking, really. And all of his mechanics are totally different, and he throws off the back foot now like crazy. And it's just, you can tell missing that coach is really hurting his development.
Well, you talk about coaches, Frank Reich.
Oh, I mean, Frank Reich. I mean, that's why, and that's another reason why we don't have, when we come out in the second half, we don't have an adjustment. Because that was the guy that was creative with all the plays. He knew player personnel and was able to figure out what their strengths and weaknesses were. And this is, I think I've said this before, Doug is a culture guy. He's not a play guy. So when you're missing the play guy and you don't have the support system for Doug, then you're going to look like a mess in the second half. And that's what happened when the Redskins adjusted their defense. They tightened up, and the Eagles just looked blah. They looked mediocre and very vanilla.
And they're going to be mediocre for the rest of the year. Jim, we were right on the spread, though, and I just want to go to a couple of people. Stephen Daniels, again, says move Mulata to center. Real Situation giving us the shout-out, naming every player he can from the New England Patriots. Thank you, Real Situation. Graham, you're always welcome on the show. And finally, quarterback coach Tony. Yeah, that is right. I am John Gruden. I am a Gruden grinder. Used to watch that show all the time. It was a great show. That was the show you go to know who you're going to draft. Yeah. That was the show you watched. It was a great show. Jim, let's go to the bet real quick before we move on to the Phillies. We're going to get into some baseball talk next because I like this energy of anti-Philly establishment in the sense of, it's really these organizations in Philadelphia that are just garbage. So last week, Jim and I are both 2-0 after betting the over and the Washington spread last week. This week, the Philadelphia Eagles are playing the Los Angeles Rams. Jim, I don't know if you took time to read any of the bets, but for me this week, I'm taking the Eagles on the spread -2.5, and then I'm taking the over again. So I'm instead of going with Washington like I did last year, I'm going with the underdog at -2.5, and then I'm going the over on the line.
Okay, I'm actually completely opposite from you. I'm going to take the Rams with 2.5 points, and then I'm going to take the under.
Okay, so this is where we diverge. I mean, I can go 32-0. There's no problem. I mean, I am capable of doing that. Don't challenge me.
We'll see what happens. I mean, this is going to be a good spot to tail off and,
it's probably for the better.
Separate from.
If you're in the chat, give us if you're taking any bets, let us know. We'll read them out loud. Really, actually interested to see what people are thinking about on those bets. And we got Lazed in the chat. Wait, hold on, Jim. I got to give Lazed a shout out. For those who are listening on Apple Podcasts, we've got viewers on YouTube watching the show. Lazed, the one who sponsors our music, is our intro song. That Lazed, the very famous artist, is in the live chat. Lazed Music, check him out. He's the one who gave us the ability to use his music to bring a really highly produced show. Lazed, all the shout out to you. We love you, brother. We love you, brother. Okay, let's go into the Phillies. I'm in a ranting-like mood, and we're into baseball once again. Here's what I see wrong with the Philadelphia Phillies. Well, here's what I see right. These bats are good. I watched a Didi Gregorius grand slam on Saturday. I leaped out of my lazy boy and could not believe what I had seen. He stepped up to the plate and it took I think he only saw one pitch and just whacked that thing out of the park. And this was, I think, the third game of the series. So I'm thinking, there's the grand slam. It's a doubleheader. This team is going to take the lead off of that great offensive mojo. I mean, you can't say it's not offensive mojo when Bryce Harper literally hit his first home run in weeks off this team, off the Florida Marlins I'm speaking of. And then Didi's just showing up as a
Correction,
great...
Miami Marlins.
Oh, sorry. Miami Marlins. They're better as the Florida Marlins. Won more championships that way, or World Series.
Agreed.
But Didi shows up. Bryce Harper is finally getting rid of a cold streak, snapping a cold streak. And the pitching's okay. Arrieta does all right. But Nola shows up on Friday night and absolutely shuts them down. They looked like they were on the move to win games that they needed to win. And what happened? They dropped 5 to the Marlins. That is absolutely unacceptable. These are your division rivals. There is no excuse for you, the Philadelphia Phillies, to see a team multiple times in a year and to absolutely not know how to handle them. And I think it was Michael Barkan. Was it against the Marlins where that video went viral where he was saying, bullpen's awful, breaking news? Was it against them?
Yeah, I believe
that. Yeah, okay, that's how bad the series was. When the network that is paid to give post-game coverage, pays money to view the game on their network, has their main anchor come on and absolutely trash your bullpen. Who do you think you're going to impress when the guy who's literally being paid by you to talk you up is still trash talking you? It's an embarrassment that this team puts out that product and promises us playoff baseball. Because if it wasn't under special COVID rules, this team is not a playoff team. In a regular year where the season is stretched out and we had our hopes all high in February, this was not a playoff team. And while we got really lucky that this COVID thing happened and that the playoffs were shortened and a team that has decent hitting can overcome bad pitching in a shorter schedule. Yes, that's true. I mean, think of the Phillies every other year where they start off and they're above 500 for April, right? That's pitching not being settled, and that's batting just showing up and being, the team that's just the hottest out of the gate. It's really easy. And when the season's only 2.5 months long, when you're really good for 1 month, that's all you need to overcome division rivals, especially when you're only playing divisional teams in a shortened season. And yet still, this team barely is skating by on one of the easiest schedules that you could possibly have when designated hitters are allowed and you have one of the better hitting cores in all of the National League, I would say, right? You get the benefit of a DH in all of this, and yet you still are barely skating by teams. Now, look, I get it. You're not going to catch the Braves now, and I don't know if we ever were. I was a believer that we were going to catch the Braves, but maybe that was a pipe dream. But to let the Marlins catch you? I mean, are you kidding me?
Here's the thing, right? I said that we were a game and a half back on September 8th, right? So I think that we could have caught the Braves. I really do believe that this is a playoff team.
It wasn't too crazy to think that was going to happen.
No.
I guess it's like the way I want to say it.
I thought that this was a playoff team. I did not think it was an NL East winning team. When they're hot, they are hot. They look like one of the best teams in baseball. There's no debate about it. But the question that I want to bring to the fans and everything is first, let's look at the home record and away record, right? We're 16-11 at home. Away, we're 8-13. Our last 10, we were 3-7. But everybody always wanted to blame our away troubles on Gabe Kapler, right? Are our issues, were they Gabe Kapler related in the past? Because the feeling that I'm getting right now is that these players are just who they are. And how they're going to play on away games is just how they're going to play away games. Even with the addition of Didi hitting the grand slam and everything, it was a roller coaster ride. We had games where we scored 12 runs and 11 runs, and then we had games where we scored 1 run. So, for the fans, is this team just who they are, or is Girardi going to change something in the last 12 games that we have left to play?
Can I go to the fans real quick, Jim, before I interrupt you?
Go right
I
ahead.
want to go to the chat. Don't want the fans to think we're not reading the chat. Ari's taking Eagles with the points. Tommy Higley says LA is -1. Well, sorry, I was on FanDuel yesterday. They were -2.5, so I'm still sticking with the bet. And then Lay says bullpen has been trash for years. That's true. And then Steven Daniels says, Lays, you're right. Phillies have to spend the money. Yeah, it's true. And Girardi is Girardi's culpable. He's the one who says let's bring the bullpen out.
And there's no doubt in my mind that Girardi's a better coach. He has the right public presence for Philadelphia. He does handle things better than I think Gabe Kapler would. But maybe it's just who the players are. And our pitching has blown it recently. And I said this a couple weeks ago. The bats were going to get quiet, And they, for the most part, they have, except for 2 games where they scored 23 runs between the 2 games. But everything else has been quiet. And the pitching had to pull us through, and they just didn't. And now with Arrieta out for the rest of the season, what the heck are we going to do? I mean, who is going to fill in as another starter? Because I don't see anybody in the bullpen that I would pick.
And this team's not deep enough to do what the Nationals did, where you let the best starting pitcher in baseball that year come in as your reliever. That's not happening. You don't have those kind of arms on this team.
And I'm okay with slumps, but this doesn't feel like a slump. This feels exactly what we felt in the last 2 years.
Right. Your playoffs are in sight. They're in sight.
And they're just fading. They're just fading so hard. Injuries are a big issue right now with JT and Reese being out. But at the same time, you said it, we have this core of hitters that should be able to step up in that role. And you have people like Adam Hazley, who's playing a better season than he ever did, Roman Quinn playing a better hitting season than he ever did, and Andrew Knapp stepping up. And we're still not scoring the runs that we need to support the pitching.
Real situation, bringing up a really good point. Didi won't be back, Tony. Big mistake if they re-sign him. I mean, Real Muto is he's the priority.
Yeah,
Don't get that twisted. I understand that.
I mean, there is just so much about the JT Real Muto situation that feels like Jimmy Butler. You've mentioned it previous pods.
Yeah.
It just feels like we traded, Sixto Sanchez, one of our better pitchers who came out and opened up for Miami.
Yep.
And looks really good. We traded him away to get JT, and now we're on the cusp of losing JT?
You do everything in your power to keep him.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason in my mind to let him walk away. Baseball is not a salary capped sport. You have a billionaire as an owner. Invest the money in the kid.
Right. And that's what we said about the bullpen. It's the same situation. Prove to me you're willing to win. Yeah, sweet. You gave Bryce Harper a big contract. Every team in the Major League Baseball has to give a guy a big contract like that. That's just the way it goes. A lot of these players who are stars are getting that money. Teams put up the money and they don't complain. It's when the other guys who are really good that don't really sell the jerseys, though, require the payment. Because good teams understand they pay the Yankees play a guy even if he's not going to sell jerseys. Because they know that a pennant, a parade down Broad Street will bring more jersey sales than just signing Bryce Harper. Will sell more tickets to a game than just signing Manny Machado.
And frankly, right now, I don't even feel like people care that Bryce is on the team because he has been in this sort of slump. People care more about JT Real Muto and Rhys Hoskins because they're the ones that are getting the job done, and they're out right now.
Once again, it's coming back to management. That's all I'm thinking of. I'm so tired of talking about it because it's just like every team. Now, the Eagles, you can say management's a problem with the Eagles because that the drafting, which has been criminal, an absolute criminal drafting prospect and way that they've handled it is so bad at the Eagles organization for the last 3 or 4 years that you could point that there's an organizational flaw in that regard. Now, I like Howie Roseman. I think he's a good general manager. But it's still a flaw that you can point out. You can point out the fact that the Philadelphia Phillies aren't willing to spend the money to lock down pitching, to keep good guys that you gave up prospects for. Because if we're going to wait if you're going to let Real Muto walk and you just gave up 2 prospects to get him, why did you even give up the prospects? They were cheaper money, and you're now putting yourself back 2 years anyway by getting rid of a guy. It's like the Jimmy Butler situation. You're getting rid of 2 rookies to say, I want to win now, and then you let the guy walk. Whatever happened to winning now? So you got to commit. It can't be 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. And that's all on management. That is all on management to make those decisions if they're going to commit to a strategy, you stick to it and you make the tactical moves that fulfill the strategy. We're going to continue on to a little bit of basketball now. I know we've talked about the Eagles. We've talked about the Phillies. And now I want to talk about the Clippers. And to start on the Clippers, I'm going to play a clip from Stephen A. Smith. This is on First Take, talking about how the Clippers absolutely fell apart. I mean, there's no way to put it other than falling apart against the Denver Nuggets, who have come out to really impress me. Here's Stephen A. Smith on First Take today.
Kawhi Leonard. That might be the biggest choke job we've ever seen in NBA history. I mean, it was that bad. It was that bad. We're talking about a two-time MVP. We're talking about a two-time champion who Max Kellerman has bloviated about being the best in the world. And what happens? You're up 3-1 in the second round, not the conference finals, in the second round against Denver, Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, not LeBron James. And in the second round, up 3-1. You blow a 3-1 lead. What do? You shoot 6 of 22 from the field. You shoot 1 for 11 in the second half. You didn't even get to the free throw line. Just an absolute positive choke job, period.
Stephen A. always puts it at the best possible way. I don't think Stephen A. Smith has ever given a post-game rant better than that one, and I think that was right on the spot because this was a indictment on Doc Rivers, who's, he's believed to be one of the best coaches in the NBA, yet his track record doesn't prove anything outside of Boston. Outside of having Kevin Garnett. And Jim, I'm going to ask you your opinion, but first, I want to thank everyone who's been listening to the show on YouTube. Please make sure to subscribe to us, Tony's Takes, right here on YouTube. And when you do subscribe to us, hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live every Thursday, 7 o'clock. For those who are new to the show, we have been on a steady 7 o'clock Thursdays schedule, and I think it's been really good. The games line up really well with how everything goes. You can preview football, you can post-game football, basketball's kind of in between everything. I think the Thursday 7 o'clock show has been really great, and I want to thank all the listeners who are listening to Tony Stakes right now. We really do appreciate everyone taking time out of their day to listen to the show. Also, as you can see, we got a ticker tape running at the bottom. Follow us on Twitter at Tonys_takes to get live tweets from me about show information, topics we're going to be discussing, all that good stuff. Twitter account's good for getting notified outside of YouTube, so please make sure to do that. And if you ever have a hot take, you're listening to the show, you don't like what Jim and I have said about any of these teams, about the Eagles, about the Phillies, I don't even know if we talk about the Flyers, but about the Sixers, about college basketball, about St. Joe's, all the great topics we cover here on Tony's Takes. Email the mailbag, tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. All takes and opinions that get mailed into the mailbag get read on the show. And subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts. Search Tony's Takes. You see that great logo. Subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. We read all 5-star reviews on the show as well. The Apple Podcast, and if you're listening to Apple Podcasts right now, this is just a recording of the YouTube thing, make sure to leave a 5-star review. Podcast is a great form to listen to the show outside of the live airing. Okay, Jim, given the viewers the best way to reach out to us, now I want to hear your opinion. What do you think of the implosion of the Clippers? Is it Doc Rivers' fault? Is it Kawhi Leonard's fault? Or is it Playoff P's fault? You got to give me one of them.
I got to give you one. I can't give you a combo.
We're gonna put all the blame on one person.
It's got to be Kawhi, right? I mean, after you show how clutch you are, right, in the Sixers, what was that, Eastern Conference semifinals last year, the quadruple bounce. Mm-hmm. After you show how you are the greatest player in the NBA by taking a chip home to Toronto, and you fall flat with Paul George and P-Bev, how? And Lou Williams off the bench, and Landry Shamet, you have all these other guys, but you fall flat against the Nuggets. I can't believe this. I was actually shocked. I sat there watching.
Did you stay up for the whole game?
I stayed up for the game, and then when the Nuggets went up 18, I think it was 98-80, I just sat there with my mouth open, and I thought for sure that Kawhi was going to take over and then be
lock down on defense, do all the good stuff.
Oh my gosh, it was horrendous. And you see Paul George put up a shot that he was in the corner, and he hit the backboard, and it bounced out to the free throw line. I could not believe it. I mean, they looked totally bewildered and unprepared for the Nuggets to actually storm back and win it all. It was crazy.
I could believe it. I could believe it when I saw that clip because I think I saw it on Twitter. I can believe that Paul George is capable of absolutely missing the rim and hitting the backboard because, let's face it, Paul George, he doesn't win anything. He is Stephen A. Smith, once again, talk about him. He said that he might be the next Dwight Howard in regards to playoffs. Now, Dwight Howard's kind of proven that wrong now that he's winning with the Lakers. But this debacle, it's on Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers has given up 3 3-1 leads in his career. two with the Los Angeles Clippers. One was with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. The other one was with Chris Paul. And then the other one was in Orlando. People don't realize that. Give it up 3-1 leads. And yet he's regarded as this great coach. Why? Because Kevin Garnett gave him a title. Literally was the reason why. And almost gave him a second one. Because Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen turned out to be a really good combination team. Turned out to be the beginning of the Big Three era. Before LeBron James even thought of it. And you want to hold this guy in high regard with who? Greg Popovich? He's not Greg Popovich. He's a good coach. He's a decent coach. Steve Kerr's more accomplished than him. I mean, what level do you think Doc Rivers is at? I mean, Eric Spoelstra's a better coach than him. Eric Spoelstra's won more titles with teams that were, I'd say, on the same par as the Clippers. Now, here's the thing, Jim. Was the team just not built correctly? Were the expectations too high for a team that didn't really fit together? The team doesn't have a ball handler. Let's just call it as it is. Yeah. And it was evident in many of the games.
And that's why you know we all thought Lou Williams would be so effective on this team, come off the bench and be able to be that guy. But it just, I don't know, it just didn't work. And everybody at the beginning of this season thought that this was the team. They said that this was the team to go all the way, and that we all thought the Sixers at the beginning of the season. We thought it was going to be Sixers and Clippers, and we thought that the Clippers were going to be just a little bit better than the Sixers. And look at both teams. Both teams out. I know COVID happened and everything, but both teams that you thought were the favorite at the beginning of the season are now they're just going to be sitting at home watching. And you're going to have, in my opinion, you're going to have the Heat versus the Lakers. And I just think that that's completely nuts, and I think that shows the variability of the NBA, and that it's no longer just the Spurs or the Warriors versus, Boston or whoever from the East. It's never just a lock on the West anymore.
Which is good. It's plurality. People like plurality.
Or Cleveland back in the day. Sorry, I forgot when LeBron was over on the East.
Yeah, right. And it was just LeBron. It was LeBron owning the East, pretty much. I think you make really good points. I think that the expectations were too high for a team that clearly had some structural issues, right? We made fun of the Dallas Cowboys for having structural issues, calling a house that instead of paying for a new foundation, they pay for a nicer front lawn. It looked nice. It looked glamorous. But they didn't have a big man. They didn't have a center. And look, you don't need to have Joel Embiid, but you need someone who can defend the rim to some degree. And they didn't have a point guard who we all can agree on is the most important position in the NBA right now. Maybe a swing wing. But really, most good teams have really nice guard play. The Toronto Raptors, Kawhi Leonard was the best player on the team that year. But Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet held their own against the two best guards in the NBA, in Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, who were the two best guards in the NBA. I don't care what anyone says. Those guys won championships together. More so than any other combination since what? Jordan and Pippen? Those are the only two guards I can think of that were that dominant. A guard-oriented duo.
And I think the coolest thing about sports is that you always see these waves of what's popular currently, right? In the NFL now we're going into big deep passes where before it was put it on the ground. Yeah.
Right.
But now in the NBA, all players got taller and they all wanted big guards like Ben Simmons and Magic Johnson type players. Everybody got taller. You want the centers that can shoot the 3-pointers and all that. I think you're going to start seeing it come back down to the smaller point guards and the faster players again. I think speed's going to kill eventually, and I don't think this whole idea of having bigs that can shoot and can dribble, I think that's going to go away fairly soon.
Score alert, Jim. Phillies up 4-3 against the Mets.
It's got to be like the first inning, right?
It's the first inning still. Bottom of the first. 2 outs.
That's a lot of runs. I hope somebody bet over
4-3 early into the game. Nola giving up 3 runs? That's not like him. Or is it?
Well, once the cancer's there, it'll spread.
I like that. I like that little analogy. Always using the science on me. Let's keep talking about basketball, though. I want to show the viewers something. This is John Rothstein's tweet. We're going to go to the Celtics-Heat series, which is actually going on right now, and I know we got Celtics fans who listen to the show, but I want to show this. This is exciting news from college basketball. This is John Rothstein of, I never know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly, of CBS Sports, and he has tweeted out, and I don't know if that's popping up for people on YouTube, that teams can participate in the following, that the NCAA has approved of the 2021 seasons to start November 25th. As of now, it says 24 regular season games, 25 regular season games, and 2, I think those are tournaments. So those are your options. The more tournament games you play, the less regular season games you play. And the max you can play is 20. The minimum you have to play is 25 with no tournament games. Practice can officially start on 10/14. This is a good thing, Jim. I'm glad to see the Big Ten. They've pushed back. They're going to say they're going to play football. Now we've got basketball. College basketball is going to be coming to a town near you again. I'm really glad that some things are turning or returning back to normal.
Yeah, and you want that domino effect, right? So once somebody does it, then everybody's going to do it. And that's kind of what happened the reverse way when coronavirus hit. You had
the Ivy League.
Yeah, you had Ivy League going down. I mean, and then everybody just followed, right? So hopefully it comes out the same way, you know. So that's a really good sign, and I'm excited. It would give us more stuff to watch in the fall. Yeah,
because we're going to need all these sports played this year.
Yeah. I think about this all the time. How are we going to manage the next seasons? I know the NBA's already talked about postponing the start of the 2020-2021 basketball season. So I'm interested to see how this happens. I think baseball will be fine. I think they'll start back up in March, April. I don't think there'll be any delays. Hockey will definitely be delays because they're kind of on the same schedule as basketball, and I think the NFL should be fine. So maybe it's just those two sports that are going to have to deal with the postponements.
Yeah, probably. Okay, let's go to this Miami Heat team. We got to talk about it. It's one of the most exciting games I've watched in basketball since the finals last year. I mean, really. Even then, those games weren't as exciting as the one I watched yesterday. But I want to start with this. This is from the Undefeated. This is Mark Spears of ESPN. I want to read what he talked about from Jimmy Butler and Udonis Haslem. Udonis Haslem's a winner. Dude has won. And he's very similar to Jimmy Butler. So I just want to read this. And I want Philadelphia fans to listen closely. This is what we gave up. Lake Buena Vista, Florida. In the NBA bubble, veteran Miami Heat forward Udonis Haslem has a variety of canned soup and tuna, microwavable mac and cheese, graham crackers, cereal, microwavable popcorn, and packaged noodles in his hotel room. He prefers to sleep on the pull-out bed from the couch instead of the soft king-size bed, something Jimmy Butler also does apparently. He rarely says a word to his opponents living on the same grounds at Grand Destino Tower. Despite the many luxuries on hand and the potential to bond with other teams, Haslem and the Heat have preferred to be uncomfortable and unfriendly in their quest to win an NBA championship. You got to get leaders like me and Jimmy, Haslem said. Action reflects leadership. When you see how I approach every day, and when you see how we approach every day in the bubble, ain't really here trying to be friends with nobody. I might have spoken to about 5 people outside of my teammates since I've been here. I didn't leave my room until my wife got here. That was about a week and a half ago. I ain't sleep in the bed. I'm sleeping on the couch. Jimmy sleeps on his couch too. That ain't nothing planned. That's just how it happens. He continues on. Listen to this line next, Jim. I didn't want to get comfortable. I didn't want to feel like home. I don't want to get relaxed. I want to keep my edge. I want to stay focused on the task at hand. So I'm sleeping on the couch right now. Dog. With a room full of chunky soup. Wow. We gave that up. Now, we didn't have Udonis Haslem, but I'm hearing Jimmy Butler's doing the same thing in his room, and we gave that up.
I mean, this is what you want to see from players that go down to a resort, right? To one of the happiest place on earth where there's a million distractions going on. I mean, did you see all of the added things that they got just for going down to the bubble? They got a personal foot masseuse, personal barber. They had all these things, right? And all these distractions that could possibly be around them, and they're staying in their room, sleeping on the couch.
And they're not chit-chatting. They're not, oh, hey, let's play video games together. Oh, yeah, let's go play, PUBG. Let's get together.
You have other players around, right? I mean, people that have so much in common with you about your profession and how they approach the task at hand. And they just want to be in their own world, and they want to focus on the one thing. And I think that's a great approach. I think it's probably the preferable approach for every coach. They want their players to just be focused on the one thing they're supposed to do down there. Not going out, sneaking out to Magic City, not sneaking people into their rooms, right? Focused on the one thing. He said his wife,
waiting for his wife.
Right.
Stability. Right? That's his mindset. He said, that's the only person I'll leave the room for.
And you have to be, as an elite player in any sport, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? In the last quarter of these games, they're going to be tired. They're going to be uncomfortable. You have to live in that zone. And I think Miami shows that every single time that they play. Jimmy Butler definitely does when he takes over in the fourth quarter, and you know that he has to be hurting, but it doesn't matter because he pushes through that and gives 110% every single time in the fourth quarter. They just don't want to lose, and you know how bad they don't want to lose.
It's all in the mindset. This Jimmy Butler, how many times do I have to come on this podcast and this YouTube live stream and sing the praises of Jimmy Butler? Because every turn, this guy says the right things in the playoffs, and this year, he hasn't been a distraction in his locker room like everyone thought he was. Turns out when you put him with a coach that listens to him, when you put him in an organization which has a great general manager who also knows how to speak to players, turns out this guy is a team player, and it's everything that you've ever wanted in a basketball guy. And we've just let him walk. We just let him walk. And it's just a reflection on a bad culture we have in Philadelphia.
And he got this mentality from when he first came into the league, and the older veterans were hard on him, and you can see that he's applying. He's talked about this a couple of times, even when he was in Philly, that when he first came in, they were hard on him, and it did him for the better, and it's doing Miami for the better right now. And I don't know how many times we have to talk about it, but he looks like a second coach out there, helping the team, guiding them, and they're just. I don't know if they can be stopped.
I want to give the Celtics credit, though. They do play this team hard. It's not like they're rolling over. I don't want the listeners to think, oh, he's just talking about he's just going to trash talk the Celtics. He's a Philadelphia Sixers fan. He's just singing the praises of Jimmy Butler and the Heat. No. The Celtics played well. And I think if they had Gordon Hayward, we'd be talking about a different game. Because, first of all, this Celtics team, they play to the final buzzer. There is no question that these guys show up and go, we're going to win. We don't care if we're undersized. We don't care if we're overmatched. We're going to show up and we're going to win the game because we can play really good defense, and we have two guys who make shots. Jason Tatum makes shots. Now, he got absolutely stuffed by Bam Adebayo, which was hysterical, but I think you want him taking that shot. There's no other way to go, and he was right there. Literally, it takes a freakish effort to block that shot because Tatum had gotten by his guy and was literally the ball was ready to roll into the rim on a layup. Bam Adebayo says, no, I'm not going to let you do that. So it's a lot of credit to him. He played hard, but Tatum got to the rim. Don't get it twisted. He played hard. He can get in a scoring spot. When you let Kemba Walker sit there and miss shot after shot after shot after shot, and he does miss shots. But when the game's on the line, after missing 10, he'll make the next one. Because I've seen him do it. He did it in this series. Now, they passed him up once or twice. You could see him waving his hands. But when he does get the ball in his hand, he does that nice little 14-foot jumper, and it goes in every time. He is no joke. He can make shots. And it makes this Celtics Heat game so impressive. Makes it so impressive for the fact that Jimmy Butler hits shots when he needs to. Kemba Walker hits shots when he needs to. Jason Tatum hits shots when he needs to. And it just turns out to be really great team basketball with individuals making star-studded plays and coaches who know what they're doing. This feels like this is what the NBA should always look like to me. more like college basketball in the sense of team-oriented play with your number one player making the play that needs to be made, but everyone's involved. Tyler Hero showing up and hitting 2 big shots saying, yeah, Jimmy, thanks for the ball. I'm going to shoot it 2 seconds into the shot clock. What? Who? Tyler who? Turns out he shows up, knows how to play, knows how to shoot, is not afraid of anyone, and says, I'm going to help my team win because it can't just be all Jimmy.
Yeah, and I know you're big on Tyler Hero, but I think the key goes back to what you were saying before with Bam Adebayo. I think he is the key factor in this series against the Celtics. And as a Philadelphia fan, of course, I'm going to root for the Heat. But if they want to win, Bam's got to be the X factor. I mean, as far as centers go on the other team, Daniel Theis and or Tice, sorry.
No worries.
And
it is Tice though.
Oh, okay. And Ennis Cantor. I don't know if they can really hang with Bam, and I know Bam is young, but I don't know. I just think that's the big key right there. If he's going to score 18 points every night, I think that they're going to lock it away pretty soon. I don't think it'll go 7.
What's the score right now, Jim? Are you watching it?
It was 40-33 the last time I checked.
Heat or Celtics?
Celtics.
Okay. I can't. Jim can see the television. I can't. Lay's Music, let's go to the chat. Lay's Music says, Lay's love you. Well, I mean, he left the 76ers because of their mentality. Kind of true. He's talking about Jimmy Butler. And then Caitlin says, pop off Tony. Thanks, Caitlin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely Jimmy Butler could not flourish in Philadelphia, right? The coaching just wouldn't allow him to do that. He went down to Miami. Spoelstra, got to give him credit. He's kind of let Jimmy Butler do his thing, and he's flourishing right now. The team is flourishing. They just have 5 guys playing about 40 minutes, and all of them are in the plus as far as plus minus goes. Butler's plus 9, Adebayo's plus 12, Dragic. Look at his improvement this year. I mean, he's 3 points. He's scoring 3 points more than last year. The other stats aren't really that much of an improvement, but 3 more points per game is that's tremendous, and got to give it to Spoelstra for that. Got to give it to Butler. I think that the veteran leadership is just
it's stunning.
Yeah, it's really good. That's why they've improved so much.
So you are saying Heat in 5. I just want to confirm.
Yeah, Heat in 5.
Okay, because I like to write this down and remember it for later. I'm going to go Heat in 7. I don't think the Celtics roll over. I never will bet against a Celtics team, especially with Brad Stevens, just rolling over and not finishing the job that they were set out to do. I think they play hard. The reason that they push this team to an overtime, they don't go away. It's just not like, oh, see you later. I want to go back to one other thing that we were discussing about let's go to the Western Conference. That's what I want to talk about, because we're just talking about the Eastern Conference. We have one is guessing Heat in 5. By one, I mean Jimmy D. And me, Tony, picking the Heat in 7. Let's go to the Western Conference Finals. We have Denver v. Los Angeles Lakers. I'll give you a couple of the bets, Jim. And then we're going to pick the bets, and then we're going to pick the series. For tomorrow's game, Denver is plus 6.5. The over is 212. And the money line's 215 for Denver, minus 260 for Los Angeles. I'll tell you mine before I give you yours. And by the way, the public spread, the betting is Denver is at 53%. And the series, Lakers are favored minus 750, which is pretty substantial. I like Denver on the spread game 1, so I'm going to take them plus 65, and then I'm going to go over 212. LeBron likes to run. These teams aren't playing defense like they should. I think it goes over. It's going to be like 115, 110. That kind of score with the Lakers winning.
Yeah, I think the Lakers are going to win. I'm actually going to give them minus 6.5. I'm going to go with the Lakers minus 6.5. I don't think that they get punched in the mouth the way that they did against the Rockets. I think they're going to come out hard. They're going to score a lot of points.
This is the Western Conference Finals.
Right, and I think over 212, I think that's pretty weak, honestly. And oh wait, did we go to the series or no?
Frank says Heat in 6, by the way, chat. Series, no. We're going to do Lakers, Denver series. You want to give yours first? Or you
Yeah,
want me to
sure.
go?
Yeah. I think I'm gonna go with Lakers in 6. I really want to root for Denver just because I like seeing the NBA get mixed up, and then I'm not really that much of a LeBron lover, but it just minus 750 just feels like the Lakers are gonna win the series in 6.
I'll take the Lakers in 5. So
Really?
taking Heat in 7, Lakers in 5. The series ends on the same day because that's like the differential in games right now.
Don't you think that that Denver matches up really well against the Lakers or no?
I think they do because of the center, but I also think Anthony Davis is going to shut down Jokic,
You think so?
and that's my big matchup. Apparently, Bryce Harper just hit a home run.
All right, Bryce. Let's
According
go.
to Evan. Shout out to Evan. I know. And for those probably listening on Apple Podcasts, you're like, why are they guys just breaking away sometimes like that? Well, that's just because we talk to the live chat. More of a reason for you to check out the YouTube live stream. We're live on YouTube right now on this beautiful Thursday night. And we do chat with the chat. It's the whole reason why we went live on YouTube. That way we could talk to you, the listener, get your takes while we were talking. And we really do appreciate everyone listening to the show right now. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate you too. Really, I know it's not easy to make every live stream, so that's why we put the recorded version up. We do appreciate you on all of our platforms, and that's all I got to say about that. I want to bring up one more thing, Jim, before we close the show, and it's this. It's about LeBron James. I got to fess up. I used to be a LeBron James fan, then I didn't become one because he went to the Lakers, and I really don't like the Lakers. And I will root against anyone who's on the Lakers. But LeBron James has had bad luck for his entire playoff career. From Kyrie Irving demanding trades, Kyrie Irving getting hurt in his first year in Cleveland, LeBron's first year in Cleveland, that is. Guys like Dwayne Wade not showing up against not the Thunder, but the Mavericks the first time the Heat went to the playoffs. The Cavaliers and how they would implode and get injured. And the J.R. Smith soup incident, I mean, he had a player who was throwing soup at the coaches and a player who infamously grabbed that rebound and tried to shoot in his own basket. LeBron James hasn't had good luck in the playoffs. He hasn't had those good breaks. He hasn't had things fall his way when teams don't get injured, but his teammates do get injured. This is LeBron James's first time, I think, where he is by far the favorite, and there's no impediment in his way, right? Sure, the Heat were favorites, but there was an injury. Or the San Antonio Spurs were just a better team that year. The Cleveland Cavaliers were a good team. There was injuries. There is nothing like that this year, and there's no Warriors team on the other side of it, right? Because we all can admit the Warriors team, best team probably ever. There is none of that on the other side. It is the East, with one team that has Jimmy Butler and another team that has a young Tatum and a Kemba Walker who's undersized. LeBron has no excuse if he loses this year. Players who are great take care of the situation and do everything in their power to win. And when you're stacked up against teams and you're clearly better than all of them, well, then you've got to secure a championship. Because there is no excusing this away if you lose. Just like we don't excuse it away for Kawhi Leonard and his loss. You are the best team in the championship right now, or in the running for the championship. You're the best player in the league, by far. I was wrong when I thought you weren't, but you were, LeBron James. You were the best player, and you are the best player right now. You've been the best player for 14 years. If you want to think you're like Michael Jordan, the best player in the league secures the win when his opposition is so much worse than him. You can't have him. You lose. This is like as bad as when you lost to the Mavericks. They have a good player on the other side. Jimmy Butler is a good player. He's not as good as Dirk Nowitzki, but he's a good player. If you allow them to beat you, where do the excuses stop then? Because they'll stop right here. And you will never be considered the greatest player in the history of basketball. But if you win this year, you prove everyone wrong like you did I'd say a lot of people were betting against the Lakers. They were betting for the Bucks, betting for the Clippers. The Lakers were the third choice in everyone's mind. If he delivers on it, then we'll talk. Because good players, I understand you lost games that were close to dynasty-level teams. But in years when you knew you should secure the win, you do it. Jim, you want to close out? Any final words from you on that take?
My final words on LeBron James is approaching this Nuggets series, do not take them lightly because Jamal Murray and Jokic will catch you off guard if you're not prepared. So get the job done if you are who you say you are.
Amen. Sorry, I was reading the chat. Some are accusing me as a LeBron lover, which is true. I was.
Definitely back in 2015, I can remember.
But when you go to the Lakers, I can't love you. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is, as Tupac said. Thank you for listening to Tony's Takes, Jim. I think that wraps it up for today's episode. We keep it tight hour, right?
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
It was a good show today. We talked Eagles, talked Phillies, talked basketball, talked all of it. One of the highest viewed shows. We just keep growing. Spread the news. If you love Tony's Takes, share it with all your friends. The live chat blew up. I've never seen a live chat like this before. It has been excellent to talk to you, the fans. Make sure to follow us at Tony's_takes. It's a great way to get knowledge and information from me directly during the week, especially around when this show's going live. Email the mailbag if you disagreed with anything we said today, or if you're watching an NFL game, you go, I really like this game, I really want Tony and Jim to cover it, or I've got an Eagles take or something. Mail the mailbag. I built that ticker. I spent all day building that ticker that you're watching on YouTube. For those who can't see the show, email the mailbag, tonystakes.1851@gmail.com. All takes get read on the show if they're sent to the mailbag. I know I missed some of the stuff in the live chat, but that's because it comes through pretty quickly. And it's just on the fly. So I do apologize if someone thinks I haven't read their takes. Mail the mailbag, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe on YouTube. Final thing, subscribe on YouTube. We have the largest subscription growth, 3 times bigger. 3 times bigger. It's excellent to see that. And when you do subscribe, hit the notification bell. That way you know when we go live every Thursday at 7 p.m. on YouTube, you get the notification and you know to come on to listen to us and chat to us. Other than that, thank you for listening to another great episode of Tony's Takes. Jim and I will see you next week right here on YouTube at 7 o'clock. Thanks for listening.
The premier sports talk radio, it's Tony's Takes.
Here we go.